What's going on, Next Gen fam? Welcome to Mentor Momentum. We are making Mentor Momentum history here with our first ever live episode, and I could not think of a better guest to do it alongside. But before I bring him on, make sure you get in the comments, hit us with your thoughts and questions. I am pumped to be here, excited to be here alongside you. So without further ado, I'm beyond excited to welcome this week's guest. He's an advisor to some of the world's leading CEOs. He has authored / co-authored 30 plus books, including Execution, a book that stayed on the New York Times bestseller list for 150 weeks. We have so much to talk about, from his tips on being a great leader all the way to his brand new book, Rethinking Competitive Advantage. So Jenna, we got to bring him on. Ram, thank you so much for joining us on Mentor Momentum. Welcome to the stage. Great to have you here.
Thank you very much, Andrew. I'm very delighted to be here, to be a part of this wonderful things you're doing.
Thank you, Ram. Well, I want to dive right in. I want to get started right back in the beginning with your first foray into business, working at the family's shoe shop in India. Can you tell us a bit about those early days in your first venture in business?
Yes, I was about 10 years of age, and my father and uncle started a shoe shop. In India at the time, only the Muslims had the shoe shop. We were the first ones to do it. We knew nothing about shoe business, but we knew something about customer. We knew how to buy shoes. We knew how much to buy. We knew how to price and how to fit. So I learned the most fundamentals of money making, servicing the customer, knowing each customer and the size of their feet. That was the basic learning. Just like in any profession, in music, people learn music very early, and then they hone their skills. They learn the fundamentals. In tennis, in sports, this is common. So I was lucky to learn the fundamentals of business acumen, and that enabled me to be able to dissect almost any business anywhere, because the business anatomy diagnosis is the same, just like doctors do the diagnosis of a body. And then you learn about leadership and management. But every corner store, grocery store, does not learn the basics of business in a school. They all learn in the real life. So did I.
Absolutely. Let's dive in on that thread. You are known for cutting through the complexity of running a business in today's fast changing environment to really uncover the core business problem. Can you walk us through your process when you're working with up and coming leaders and CEOs to get through the noise and get to those root problems?
Yeah. So the key part, you always start with the customer. Why customer buys your things? Why customers leaving you? Why customer getting more of you? Why somebody coming and taking your customer or your demand? What is it they do better? Or if you are gaining, against whom? You always start, because as they say in the old vernacular, the dog, if the dog will eat the dog food. This is the part people don't pay enough attention to it. Second part, you look at their balance sheet and say where the money is going, where the money is coming. Most people look at the profit and loss statement, but they are undereducated in the use of balance sheet. Most of the CEOs who have failed in the business side, they did not pay enough attention to balance sheet and the cash flow. Balance sheet purpose is where the cash is coming, where the cash is going. And then you diagnose the composition of revenue, margins, and what's happening to the net flow. Excuse me. What is happening to the net profit? Cash basis, not accounting basis. Accounting basis can be very misleading. So out of that, you begin to create hypotheses and say what decisions are being made that are causing the trouble for the company. These decisions are many, well known what's happening.
Yes.
And we're saying that here you have an Amazon. It's very easy to diagnose. And that is when you buy from them, they send you recommendation. They encourage you to buy more. So prime people buy 50% more than the non-prime basis. But the incremental cost of servicing is close to zero. So the more you grow this way, more cash you make. That's what Amazon has shown, that it began with roughly 20% gross margin. It's now hitting 44%. Apple has the highest gross margin in its category of 39%. This is business language, common sense, but you need to see all this complexity in the statements of profit and loss on balance sheet. You simplify it, take the garbage out. I do that for in one page, and then the CEOs learn that how to make it dance and get to the essence of it.
Yeah.
So there is a book I wrote, What the CEO Wants You to Know. It explains all that. I wrote that in 1998, that anybody can master first 55 pages, and you practice it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Rob, I love everything you're sharing. You're taking the complexity out of these problems and saying you could break it down to one page to get to the root of it. Before, I want to get back to this, but first, I need you to paint a picture for the people listening, a little bit about your story from getting your engineering degree in India all the way to what you're doing right now, leading an incredible consulting practice. Take us through that journey, your time in Australia, Hawaii, your MBA, into your teaching career. How did you get from that small shoe shop with your family to where you are now?
So in my town, nobody had left town to go to an engineering college. So my teachers used to come to my father and say, this kid needs to go to engineering college.
Wow.
So I was lucky enough to get admitted to the best one. It was at the time MIT of India. I got admitted, did 4 years. I was first class, and then dean called me up there. They called principal to go to Australia if my parents can afford a one-way travel, which I got to Australia. I was lucky enough to get a job in a large company. They saw my potential. They let me see many, many things. And I tried to solve some of their business problem, even though I was an engineering assistant. So they encouraged me to go to Harvard. I saved enough to come to MBA. In MBA, I got a high distinction and Baker Scholar. And then they admitted me to the doctorate program. I got a scholarship. I finished my doctoral degree in 2 years in corporate governance. In those days, nobody cared for the topic corporate governance. 1967. So I taught at Harvard for 6 years. My ratings in the first year were off the park in teaching, and the people recognized that. And then I went to Northwestern, and then to BU, and then outside demand became so much that I had to just quit teaching.
Wow.
But kept the teaching in the companies. Unilever, General Electric, DuPont, Ford, all kinds of companies. And my mission had been from the very beginning, what I teach, what I write, has to be useful to the practitioners. That's the key thing I've always done. That's what I do. So as a result of that, so long I go to the client and solve their problem or give them tools that are useful to them. So when I was working with Jack Welch, he used to say that to me, bring me tools. And you know what he would do with me? He will help develop them.
Wow.
I would get an appointment with him for 2 hours within 2 weeks because I did not go to sell him consulting. I brought new tools to him. And he loved that. And he will tell me, this is not going to work for him. This could work, and he will help me develop it. So you go to the CEOs, you try to find out what is on their mind. What is the problem? What's the opportunity? You don't go there and say, I have a solution. What's your problem? You need to find out what's on it. You work with them. You learn from them. And you develop options and ideas. So this way, this thing began to move very fast around 1964 when I was at Harvard.
Wow.
And people begin to see that what I say is practical. At the same time, I learned from them. That's how it came.
Yeah.
Then I got to 7 boards. I've gone through 50 boards across the globe. I've been chairman of many, many large situations for a short period, obviously. And
Yeah.
that's what it is. I do it solo. I don't create a firm. The reason is my work is extremely confidential.
Mm.
So the people have to trust.
Yeah.
So not having any associates, nobody knows what I'm doing.
Absolutely. But hopefully you'll give us a little bit of a look. I have everyone in the comments. They want to know the tools that you're being able to build, and with your work with these incredible CEOs, your coaching program for up and coming leaders. What are perhaps some of the key learnings or insights that you're sharing that our founders can take away as they're building their first, second, third businesses?
Yeah. So the first one, that is a radical change. For almost 70 years, we have built across the globe mass production, mass market, mass advertising. Now, you, I, Jenna, we are served individually. It's not a mass market, it's a market of one. Personalized, individualized, using database. It could have not been done without building a digital engine, software engine, and a machine learning engine. The large scale building of that was done by Jeff Bezos in 1997. The tools have been here for 150 years.
Wow.
One tool has been invented in 1763. The origin of that is 1067 by an Iranian. So the tools have been having. Without those tools, we could not have put man on the moon. Sputnik would have not gone in. It was being used in World War II. So the tools were there. So now, today, I'm taking companies through that put the engine in. It's very inexpensive for smaller companies. You can get some return on it in 10 weeks. Change your business. Because if you don't connect the customer digitally, you will lose. If you connect it in time and use the data to make decisions, you can create a very, very profitable business that you did not dream it before. So that's one of them.
How are you seeing the adaptation, given the world that we're in now, the post-COVID world, if you will? I've heard you speak about how people will have to innovate, in this time. How are you seeing our world, given, the past year and a half that we've been through?
Yeah, Andrew, the digital giants, there are about 25, 30 in the world. The most affected sector has been retail.
Yeah.
Books, music, entertainment. So people waking up. COVID-19 accelerated that. Now the people are fully aware we have to do it. But many of them don't know how to do it. Many of them have to admit it is very expensive. It takes a lot of time. It's a black box. We can't really know whether it will ever pay. It'll be another 6 months. They will find out. If they don't, they won't survive in the future. So I'm now writing a book. It will come out. And that book is Digitize with Bite-Sizes Projects. And we have 50 such cases in the book to show. And we say, benchmark it. They're doing it. Don't trust any writers, any authors. Just call those people up. And those who are doing it, they're willing to help, even if they are competitors, because this has been commoditized. The digital engine is not a differentiator, except if you don't have it, you die.
Absolutely. I know you talk about the importance of being able to go digital, and every brand needing to think about this as they're coming into the market. Tips that you have for first-time entrepreneurs that are just entering the space, what should they be thinking about?
So the first-time entrepreneur, first, let me just say the third part of it first, and that is they can get today at variable cost access to the cloud. That wasn't the case 5 years ago.
Yeah.
Second, they can rent equipment. Third, for very small fee, if at all, you can download the algorithms.
Yeah.
So what you need an idea as an entrepreneur. Always the case. And then you get 2 or 3 friends who know how to build an engine. And all these engines have been built by few people. Take a guess. How many people build Microsoft? 2.
2, 3.
How many build Amazon? 2. How many build Facebook? 2. How many build Google? 2. So Uber, Netflix, it's all a group of 3 or 4 people who have a business idea, a customer idea, an entrepreneurial idea. Many failed, many succeeded. But getting the engine, you get the people available today, they will build the engine for you. And we have 5,000 startups. All those are with an idea, with a dream, and building an engine. Somebody built an engine that today you can get your DNA map for $100.
Yeah.
Illumina built that long time ago. So you're going to get more and more of those.
Yeah.
So the entrepreneur have conviction that whatever dream you have, there will be a demand for it.
Yeah.
If you have conviction of the demand, go through the pain, go through the rocks, go through the hurdles, keep searching, keep creating, keep finding platforms on which you can ride to reach the consumer. Get the scale very fast.
Ram, I'm picking up so much from you from this entire conversation, talking about the importance of being customer first. And you shared too about the balance sheet and how in today's day and age, you can keep a really small, slim balance sheet when getting a company off the ground. What are you seeing being the biggest mistakes that founders are making when they're starting out now?
Yeah. The bigger mistake is most of the entrepreneurs have the idea of a product, that this is the product or a service. And they produce that. They test it. They have proof of concept. What they don't have is the front end. Who is the customer? How do we reach this person? How do we test? Whose help can we get to get it fast? Can become somebody else's platform. So you now have multiple places like Andreessen Horowitz, where people will take and they can create a large amount of positive if the concept made any sense. Or you're lucky enough to reach and encounter Peter Thiel, who sees something very quickly and can fund it. These things are coming up. I've done 15 companies in China, supervise them. I do a couple of them now here. But these institutions are coming up. But don't get married to the fantastic product you have in mind. Get the customer in mind. Second, raise enough funds that you don't get hooked at the 11th hour and shut your shop. You've got to, when you raise funds, raise more than you need. One came to me through Harvard Business Review Club that I gave a speech, and he called me up, and he's got a product which is the collagen heart wall, real. So he's raising money. I said, no, you raise more money than you need. It's going to take some time to scale it up. And the third one is the getting the right partner. Many of these things come to haunt afterwards. You got to be very, very clear what kind of a partner you're going to have, what will be the agreements, just like the whole thing broke out in the case of Facebook. So, you build that.
Absolutely. I love how you're pulling on what you shared first with us in this interview about how you learned in that first business venture about the customer in the shoe shop. And it's something that you've taken forward into digital startups throughout your entire ecosystem.
Exactly. You do that. Andrew, I tell you about, people don't know this. I would, at the age of 10, on the bicycle, will take 4 pairs of shoes to the people's homes. I knew their name. I knew their feet size. It was in the memory. Now computers can do that for you. They are doing it.
Yeah.
And for how many people? 100 million people, 200 million people.
Mm.
So remember, in business, you are a business person first, executive second.
Absolutely.
Leadership is leading people. So now you are a leader. But those who are not business acumen people, they suffer from it. And when I talk about the balance sheet, I'm talking one thing very simple: where the cash comes and where the cash goes. That's all you need to know.
I want to talk about your books for a second.
Yeah.
I mean, you've written, I don't know how you find the time. I mean, you're writing like a book every day at this point, it feels like, but you've written some incredible books. Execution, I want to talk about first, which obviously was on the New York Times bestseller list for 150 weeks, which an incredible accolade. I'm sure exciting to see. What is your philosophy behind that? I think, you were just sharing a bit on it about not only being, kind of the founder, but the business person. And being able to kind of manage all three ecosystems of business as you talk about. But in your words, execution, how can our founders better execute when they're thinking about their business?
Yeah. Number one, 80% of your time is getting things done. 20% you think about the strategy, the business going forward. And we already talked about the customer. So what is key in execution is first, you know your goals, and from that, decide the priorities, laser sharp priorities, clarity of it with timelines and goals. And then you look at your team and assign them. Steve Jobs used to call DRI, directly responsible individual. So there's no confusion who's going to get it done. And that you have to follow through. Most people hate follow through. And you got to give feedback. So some of these executives who are very good at it, they actually give feedback. And then you got to have the right kind of feedback to the people, coaching them. Make it as rhythm, make it cadence, make it periodic. And then we designed, not me, Jack Welch designed it, I support it, is a process for a strategy, process for talent, and process for operations, and link all the three. It's being done through algorithms today. Jeff Bezos does it. Others are doing it. It's now speed. In those days, we did not have internet. So speed and deviations. So in the case of Amazon, in my book, Amazon Management System, I was able to decode how he makes decisions. They get this 62-page report every 2 weeks, and they figured out the extreme deviation from the standard. They don't fire the people for that. They say there is something wrong with the process. Go and find it and fix it. So that's why the speed with which they are able to make decisions is incredibly fast as you go forward. So execution is very, very critical. Today, compared to before, people used to do strategy, then execution. If you did that, you die. Today, you have to execution and strategy go hand in hand simultaneously. Experiment, scale up. You say, I'm not going to say I take a year to strategy. You don't have a year. Anybody who tells you, I'm going to give you a strategy in 1 year, that person will not survive.
You're speaking the language of the next gen entrepreneurs, all about being able to take ownership and do, while also thinking about the broader strategy, but not letting the strategy get you stuck from being able to keep moving forward, right? As you're saying, if you just strategize, you end up with nothing. You just have ideas floating around, but no real concept, vision, business, etc.
Yeah. So Andrew, I designed that for a number of companies. I said, tell me your strategy. And usually they have difficulty doing that. A lot of buzzwords, a lot of things. So I said, all right, let's go another way. Tell me about your customer. Who is it? Why do they buy it? They tell that. Who's your competitor? What does he do better than you or worse than you? They tell that. Now I said, fine, what's your goal? What goal is this? Right. So tell me what 3 most important things we need to do this year. Who will do that? Why? Now you got to execution very quick.
Yeah, you have them develop their own strategy right in front of you without having it be a complex strategy. Like we were talking about in the beginning, you cut through all the noise to get to the core problems and insights, which are who is your consumer and who is your competitor and how can you be better and continue to push forward, which just seems like you think about it, you're like, oh, that makes sense, but it's so different from what's out there in the market.
Oh, it is. You always start. So I give you, Andrew, this part. When I was teaching at Harvard and Northwestern, I required my students to write in 2 pages a strategy of a company. I personally graded that. Wow. So when I go to the CEOs and I cut through, I write that in 1 page.
Wow.
No BS, no buzzwords. I take them out with a red pencil. It's very simple. And that is, what's the central idea? Who's the customer? Why would you win?
Yeah.
And how would you make money? What's the risk? Put that in about 10 paragraphs.
Wow.
And don't cheat by small writing.
I love that. I want to talk about your newest book too. It was just published last month, Rethinking Competitive Advantage.
That's the book.
There it is. We see the book live. I want to ask, your book shares tactics that digital giants use in growing and maintaining their companies. Can you share a bit about this book overall and any tactics that you think translate for early stage entrepreneurs?
Yes. Something I got from knowing about from Jeff Bezos. I used to see it in some other people. Now his is available in writing. That you need to imagine a need, a demand 7, 8, 10 years out. That you can be pretty concrete of that demand. I'll give you one in a minute. That happened yesterday.
Wow.
And that conviction should lead you that the demand will be there. Maybe 10x time from compared to today. Then you entrepreneurs start thinking, tinkering, experimenting, creating proof of concept. That today's customer, who is it? Why would he buy it? Would he have to change any habits? Changing habits is very difficult.
Yeah.
So that conviction gives you the growth. Now think with me. You have heard Apple will put one headquarter, or take a space in North Carolina with 3,000 people.
Yeah.
You heard it.
Yeah.
So I'm talking to my Harvard roommate who's in real estate. I said, take a guess in 10 years, how many people will be there?
Way too many.
200,000.
Wow.
It doesn't take a genius to figure that out.
Yeah.
I took him through. Now, if you were a restaurant chain, do you have an opportunity there? Do you want to start of some kind?
Yeah.
Entrepreneur?
Yep.
What could be zillion entrepreneurial opportunities in that area? And it's relatively less populated area. And the people going there are higher income people.
Yeah.
And there are universities, and they're going to draw a lot of students into their companies. And now Apple is going in. Would there be other companies coming?
Absolutely.
That's entrepreneurship. Have clear, grounded vision 10 years out.
Wow. Wow. Ram, everything you've shared throughout this entire ecosystem, my mind is blown. I'm inhaling everything. I got to go back and watch because I need to take notes. I need my note paper and a pen. But before we get to the end of our time, I love to end with this question. Knowing everything that you know now, what is one piece of advice that you would give to the 20-year-old version of Ram coming out of school with the engineering degree, that version of yourself, and ultimately this audience that you're talking to?
Simple. This advice is 1,000 years old. Go where your passion is. Discover what's your God's gift. What's your natural gift. Your people should observe Friends should observe. Now, you may not get that in the early stages. Keep searching. You make a mistake, correct it, go where you. Everybody has talent. Outsiders can observe it better than you can. Have people observe what you love to do, even if you have to do it free.
Wow.
So I read all these stories in the Indian cinema, how desperate whether they were to do this. Eventually they got there. I look at their talent, is fantastic. Lots of stories in America, in every single country. Because if you go into the pew where your natural talent is, you will become happier.
Yeah.
Happiness gives you success. It feeds on itself. So until you find what is it in you, keep searching, but keep engaged. And this some example I give to everybody, you have to learn every day.
Yeah.
The difference in my classmate of the 4th grade in India who sell peanuts sitting on the ground and me, he's very bright. He didn't get the chance to get knowledge, expand his mind. I was lucky that I got it. Today, you don't have to be lucky. You take free Google, free courses, but you must learn every day. And there is no lack of insights available today through your cell phone. Do those things.
Ram, you're incredible, man. Thank you for everything that you shared. We'll make sure we drop the links to the new book. You got another one coming out probably a few months from now that you shared as well. So we'll make sure everybody gets their hands on those. But thank you so much for everything you shared with us here today on Mentor Momentum.
I appreciate it. I'm delighted to be here, Andrew, and thank you. You're a great, great person to draw things out. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Get out of here. Enjoy the rest of the day. That guy is incredible. Everything. I got to go back. I mean, we're having a meeting right after this. Justin, Dylan, I'm calling you out. We got to get our strategy down on one page. No bullshit. Just straight words. No buzzwords. Insight words. Ram is incredible. So many insights throughout this entire interview. Hit us with your thoughts in the comments. Drop some feedback. Hit me directly. Let me know what you think. Thank you, everybody, for joining us today. This has been Mentor Momentum with NextGen HQ.